people ask me if I'm related to the Will Rogers, the cowboy humorist, and you won't get rope tricks or cowboy humor out of me. But I'm a firm subscriber in advice that he gave to a friend who once asked him, what's the best investment I can make? And his response was, buy land, they ain't making it anymore. And I've been working for an organization for the last 18 years that does just that. And we work in the conservation real estate field in the marketplace. And we have, in our own way, been trying to move inland conservation away from being reactive into a more designed approach. And this is a great opportunity for us to learn here from you all, but also to thank Jack and his team and ESRI for the partnership and the work they've done for us to help us bring GIS technology into helping communities design and plan for their future. This is a Gary Larson cartoon of one of the projects we did up in the San Juan Islands on Turtleback Mountain. But emergency room land conservation is really what the conservation community has been doing for so long. The bulldozers show up, the for sale sign goes on the property, the phone rings off the hook. Actually, these days the phone is ringing off the hook because developers can no longer hold on to their entitled property, so it's a different situation for a moment. But for years, the conservation community has really been reacting to threats and challenges, particularly if your focus is on people, as ours is, because our mission, Land for People, really puts a focus on communities and the importance of the relationship between people and place, recognizing that if we have healthy human communities and a healthy relationship with nature, that's ultimately going to be good for all species. Let me talk for a minute about TPL and where I come from, just so you have some context for what I want to talk about in terms of how we're using GIS for the design process. We're a national conservation organization. We work across the country. As I said, we're really in conservation real estate. We face two principal challenges. You know, and Tom, you set a very broad canvas. I'm going deep in one aspect of this, but a lot of what we're facing is absolutely related to what you were talking about. One challenge, of course, is population growth and disproportionate land use. Great quote there. This is in San Diego someplace. The second challenge for us is how we make our cities work better, how we make them green, vital, and our metric is that every child be within a 10-minute walk of a park, garden, or safe place to play. And if we can get our cities right, we think it'll take the pressure off the urbanizing fringe and change that landscape into this landscape. So those are the two threats that we deal with both in the cities and beyond the city limits. The way we work as an organization, again, in the marketplace, I'll talk more about the vision work because that's really the core of my presentation, but we also help federal, state, local, municipal government raise money, $30 billion in the last 6 years, for land conservation projects through initiative, mostly through voter initiatives. We've done about 4,000 deals. The numbers don't really matter. A quarter of an acre in an inner city makes an enormous difference in people's lives. And then we also do park design and development in a number of cities, engaging kids in participatory design. Because we work from inner city to wilderness, we've divided our program into several initiatives. Parks for People is urban, suburban. Working lands, obviously, family farms, ranches. Natural lands, national parks, wilderness, the works there. Heritage lands, cultural, historic sites that help us understand where we're coming from. And hopefully we can remember more about when we're figuring out where to go. And then water isn't just about scenic coastlines. It's also about water quality and protecting land to protect water. And that takes us anywhere from inner city gardens in Oakland to a before and after for a New York playground that the kids actually designed, to what we call fitness zones in low-income neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Our working lands gets us into working with the Park Service on J.C. Hyde's farm within the city limits of Atlanta. In southwestern Colorado, the Wet Mountain Valley, 8,000 acres of conservation easements with ranchers there. South of Glacier National Park, a project we did with the Nature Conservancy, 300,000 acres purchased from Plum Creek Timber, critical lands for adaptation and wildlife corridors. Palo Duro Canyon in Texas, the block where Martin Luther King grew up. We've protected something like 13 homes now with the Park Service as a National Historic Site. Returning 10,000 acres to the Nez Perce tribe in southeast Oregon, their ancestral homelands, which they call precious lands, which they were able to return to after more than 100 years. And this 17,000 acres, about 30 miles outside of New York City, provides something like 25% of New Jersey's drinking water, so very much part of our land and water program. And the befores and afters are always compelling. Certainly in urban areas, again, a kid-designed playground. And every now and then we get a second bite at the land use apple. This is the Richfield Coliseum near the Cuyahoga, in the Cuyahoga Valley. It was headed for being a shopping mall. We got our hands on it, took it down, worked with the Park Service, and now it's prairie. So every now and then you get a chance to bring something back, and in this market right now we're getting a lot of those opportunities, which is terrific. But let me talk about the vision piece, which is really our response to how you get out of this emergency room land conservation. We've done what we call vision projects. We've done about 50 of them to date. There are 15 in the pipeline. I think we're actively working on about 20 right now. Everything from working with townships in New England to 25 counties in the northern Midwest. We worked with the EPA on source water protection green prints in a number of different states. And they're all sizes and shapes, but there's some commonalities that I want to talk to. When we're working in cities, it's more of a perspective issue. How do we make sure that cities have really wonderful park systems, have that 10-minute walk criteria built in? And that means, and the red are essentially the areas where large populations of children are furthest from parks and open space. So we essentially do gap analysis. Here's a simpler, older map by census tract in the San Fernando Valley. The dark red are the places where there are a lot of low-income kids with no places to play. We call it a parks needs analysis. I call it endangered children's habitat. And so that's one way in which we use our planning and mapping in GIS to help people understand what they need to do to have healthier environments for our species. When we're getting outside of the cities, it's a different challenge. And this is really what I want to talk about, where you have multiple needs, multiple opportunities for conservation that requires understanding on the one hand, bringing science to bear, but also getting community involvement in a prioritization so that you can actually do something. And so often the challenge isn't just doing the design, but it's moving beyond the design to action. And we've really found that GIS has helped us do that in a wonderful way. This is the process for conservation vision, for TPL's conservation vision. And I'm going to focus primarily on the second arrow there, green printing and GIS analysis. But there are 4 different stages, and they're pretty straightforward. You've got to bring the right people into the tent. You've got to then amass the information to help educate them and let them make an informed decision about what they want to see in the future, the design piece of it. And then we do a finance analysis because we work in the marketplace to figure out where the funds might be to actually make this work and then come up with a brief plan. The worst thing from our point of view as being a pragmatic conservation organization is to develop a plan that gathers dust on the shelf. So this last step and then getting to action is absolutely critical for us. And walking through these briefly, again, getting all the right people in the room is critical, but getting all the people in the room is a mistake. So you have to really figure out who you want to have there and really make sure that you have the key constituencies that are really going to make a difference and carry the weight to get you to consensus and get you to action. And that group will help you identify what we call our technical advisory teams, the people, whether they're hydrologists or people who really understand biodiversity, who know where the data are, who we gather together to help us actually do the research so that we can bring back to the stakeholders the maps and the information that they need to make informed decisions.